Uncle pressured me to ask whose child it was. I trembled as I dialed the phone number of the wild man. But his phone rang. Wrong number. I stared at Eric Booth's outstanding features, with waves of emotions in my heart. With a serious face, Eric glanced deeply at me. After I returned to my country, you want my phone number? My mother gave it to me, I said quietly. It was true, my mom did give it to me. But I didn't even look at it, just deleted it. From childhood, I hated Eric the most. Even though he was very handsome, with thin lips, a straight nose, charming brows, deep eyes, long legs, 8-pack abs, cultured and wealthy. But he wasn't my real uncle. Just my mom's stepbrother. He couldn't give me any benefits, and we couldn't be in a relationship. What's even more annoying is that even though he's only 5 years older than me, he always acts like an elder in front of me. In high school, if I dated someone, the next day he would break us up. I really can't stand him. How could I possibly save his number? Waiting to be lectured? But who would have thought that the next time I saw that number would be on a hotel bed? That night, the lights went out. I had too much to drink and entered the wrong room. In the darkness, it turned into a one-night stand because I have a habit of sleeping with my head covered. When morning came, he probably didn't even care who I was. He just left a business card. The business card was all in English, high quality, obviously something belonging to a wealthy person. To be prepared for any future situation, I saved the number. Note: why do strangers leave business cards without names, only surnames? And his surname is Booth, the surname I dislike the most. As I reminisced, Eric's deep voice sounded in my ear. You should call the child's father. What's the meaning behind calling me? I didn't dare tell the truth, so I made up on the spot. The child doesn't have a father's meaning. Can you help me with this favor? Eric stared at me, his expression changing slightly. You're quite loyal to men. I let out a sigh. It's too much praise, too much praise. Irene. You still smile so carelessly. Don't you understand the seriousness of the situation? Eric's deep gaze hinted at anger. I pouted, looking helpless. Eric, uncle, the child's father, I don't want things to turn out like this either. But rest assured, I will swallow this and never cause you any trouble. Thinking, I grabbed Eric's sleeve, feeling the high-quality fabric, and whispered, but things have happened. Uncle, do you have time tomorrow? Can you take me to have the operation? I thought Eric would agree. After all, he has money. After a long silence, he looked at me and said, You created the mess, you deal with it. I was stunned, feeling miscalculated. But Eric's face turned cold and he ruthlessly brushed away my hand. If he wasn't my small uncle, I really wanted to keep the child. I'd demand a hefty maintenance fee, bother him every day, and when he gets old, I'd let the child pull out his oxygen tube directly. But I can't do that. Because, I couldn't help but call out to Eric again, Wait. Eric, with long legs, turned around to look at me. I bit my lip and pleaded, Please don't tell my parents, I'm afraid of my parents. Eric, not entirely heartless, chose temporary silence, considering my mother's health. But a new problem arose. I didn't have money for the operation. I only had 400 yuan in my allowance this month. My best friend only had 20 yuan left. We both cried in distress. At that moment, a business card fell. Yes, it was the card Eric left behind that night. We high-fived, we had a way out. I'm now also one of Eric's one-night stands. I got pregnant, holding him accountable is reasonable. And the card was deliberately left by him. Isn't it a way of inviting requests for money? I hugged Wendy and kissed her several times. Next, we obtained an ATM card. After some thinking, I decided to send a message to inquire discreetly. Sir, I am the woman who spent the night with you that night. Now I'm pregnant. Please transfer the abortion fee plus nutrition fee 20,000 to this bank account. The owner of this account is Wendy's cousin who recently traveled abroad. We laid out our reasons, and she was willing to help because girls help girls, especially when seeking money from men. Aren't you going to threaten him a bit? What if he doesn't pay? Wendy anxiously looked at my abdomen, as if it would blow up like a balloon if we didn't have the surgery. No, I shook my head firmly. From a young age, Eric has filled my closet with designer items. He spends money without blinking. If not for my mom keeping a close eye, I could have sold those things to support myself for the rest of my life. With such generosity, a one-night stand partner could willingly pay for an abortion. He won't hesitate, even 2 million would probably be fine. However, after a long time, he hadn't responded. There was no news from the account either. Wendy's cousin even asked, Did you meet a stingy man? I bit my finger, because I couldn't come up with anything more. I looked to Wendy for help. You're good at making up stories. Quickly save me. Just say anything that keeps Eric from knowing that the child in my belly is his. I couldn't speak, so I quickly wrote it down on a tablet. In less than a moment, I saw Wendy typing away on my phone. She frowned, blushed, and then triumphantly hit send. Uncle Eric. This matter involves Irene's lifelong secrets. I didn't want to tell, but you kept on thinking wrongly and blamed her for that night. Very well. I'll tell you. As Wendy spoke, catching her breath, she gave me a complex look. I clenched my fist, encouraging her to continue. What are you going to tell him? Speak up. She hesitated. Well, Irene has liked you since she was young. I blinked furiously. Could this be said? Wendy shook her head, signaling not to interfere with her performance. She was about to continue speaking, then suddenly, a knock sounded. My mom's voice came through the door. Irene, I made crab sauce, take it to your uncle. I couldn't go. I refused on the pretext that I was in the bathroom. Oh, then remember to wash your hands. I left it on the living room table. My mom, the queen of our house, had everyone obeying her commands. I pleaded with Wendy through my eyes. She shook her head. She had a family gathering at noon, and she had to leave soon. I held on to her. No, how do we resolve the matter with Eric? You haven't told me the next steps. Wendy slapped her forehead, muttering in my ear for a while. I listened and agreed that the reason she said I liked Eric was just to set the stage. It led to the truth. I liked Eric, so I followed him to the hotel, finding out he had relationships with other women, feeling disappointed, and ended up sleeping with someone. It was somewhat of a painful narrative. But, they got the story well rounded. When I meet Eric later, should I say this? Well, I have to clarify the relationship between him and the child. I thought and thought, unconsciously arrived at Eric's doorstep. After returning to the country, he had been living in a high-end neighborhood near my house. The elevator opened, and I coincidentally ran into Eric. He was wearing a black shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing his honey-colored, strong forearms. He looked so handsome, and I felt I wasn't at a loss. I was just about to look for you, he said, with a deep gaze, getting straight to the point. Your friend said you like me? I blushed at his directness. But I had to admit it. Otherwise, how would I cover up the lie? How would I clarify our relationship? I nodded and proceeded to say everything Wendy had taught me. After listening, Eric's face went through changes of dark to pale. After a long time, he took my wrist with a blank expression and led me into his house. When his palm touched mine, a familiar sensation gripped me. And my cheeks flamed red. 2 months ago, after all. That hand, with that scar, was wandering on my body. At that time, it was pitch black around, and I remembered this vividly. I asked Eric how it happened. His face darkened, initially not wanting to bother with this trivial matter. But seeing me staring at him, after a moment of silence, he still said, burnt in an accident abroad a year ago. Oh, no wonder I've never seen it. After putting down the crab, I was ready to leave. After all, it had been explained clearly, and he should believe it now. Irene, do you think I'm a fool? Eric leaned back on the sofa, his low voice devoid of any fluctuation. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he had found another flaw in me? You think that by making a mistake, confessing that you like me will earn forgiveness? He smirked coldly, his figure looming darkly towards me. Suddenly, a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes and brows. Do you actually like me? I'm not sure in my heart. His red eyes forced me to the corner of the wall. The man's strong masculine scent enveloped me, leaving me with no escape. For a moment, my heart felt like it was about to leap out of my throat. Oh no, that Eric was back. Irene, you can't even hide from me. How could you possibly like me? He finished, a faint smile appearing on his lips. Then his gaze fell on my abdomen. Who is the wild man? You don't have to say, I will find him. Eric's tone was clear and decisive. Every love affair of mine in the past had been suffocated by him. But this time, the leading male role was him. With this in mind, I couldn't help but say, what if the father of the child is you? Upon hearing this, his eyes lit up for a moment. However, they quickly dimmed down again, and with fists against the wall, his voice slightly gasped, Irene, I have never been involved with anyone. How is that possible? I was stunned. Eric had never been involved with anyone, but the man from that night. My eyelashes trembled as I looked at Eric's palm, that scar. It was clearly him. When Wendy and I confronted you about money, you admitted it. Admitted what? Oh, he just asked me if I was the woman from that night. Eric sat on the sofa, rubbing his brows with distinct fingers. He said that he was too drunk that night and couldn't possibly have engaged with anyone. But, indeed, there was a woman who slept in his bed for a night. Maybe there was some physical contact, but nothing else happened. If nothing happened, how did the child come about? I touched my stomach, feeling sudden unbearable pain. Seeing my pale face, Eric immediately scooped me up and kicked open the door, sending me to the hospital. Clutching my stomach, I trembled in fear. Was I having a miscarriage? Was I bleeding heavily? I subconsciously looked at the ground, relieved to see no blood. Tears welling up in my eyes, filled with worry, I lay in Eric's arms. At a glance, I saw Eric's tense, handsome face, his chin slightly trembling uncontrollably. I widened my eyes, never having seen him like this before. I wondered why. Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound in my stomach. I froze for a moment, feeling even more agonizing stomach cramps. Uncle Eric! Eric! Take me back quickly, please! I contorted my face, looking even more distressed than before. Eric's face darkened. I'm taking you to the hospital now, no tantrums. Curled up in Eric's arms, I dared not move, sweating coldly, saying, no, it's just that I need to use the bathroom. Seems like I ate something wrong. For a moment, the air froze. Eric's worried eyes softened, but soon became complex. Irene! Hurry up! I'm going to mess my pants. I grabbed a piece of fabric from Eric's suit jacket and frantically ruffled it. Less than 10 seconds later, I sat on the toilet and had a massive release. At that moment, my mom called to scold me. I told you to take it from the table in the living room. Why did you take it from the kitchen table? It's bad. It was going to be thrown away. Did you steal and eat on your way? I realized why it tasted so flavorful. Turns out it was bad. As I straightened up, finally managing to leave the bathroom, Eric handed me a box of anti-diarrhea pills. Take 2. I picked up the pills, hesitated, and then put them back down. These pills weren't bitter. Eric stared at me with a resigned look. In less than a moment, he handed me a candy. I took it, my favorite. But it wasn't about the bitterness. I pursed my lips. Uncle, have you forgotten? I'm pregnant. He actually made a pregnant woman take medicine directly. Did he decide to take me for an abortion? I started to panic. Honestly, I'm feeling much better now, no need to take the medicine. But for the surgery, it could be considered. As I contemplated this, Eric bluntly pried open my lips, stuffed the antidiarrheal pill into my mouth, his voice tinged with anger. Whose child is it that's worth you suffering? Not even taking the medicine. My eyes widened, shocked by his actions. I mumbled, Uncle Eric. Startled by his movements, I muttered hesitantly. He released me as his eyes softened, and then there was a trace of tenderness in his handsome face. Take the medicine. And I will take you to get rid of it. I held the pill, feeling a bit scared. How could I have seen hatred in Eric's eyes just now? Could it be that the man from that night wasn't him? My heart was in turmoil. Then Eric's cell phone rang. He picked up in front of me, and it turned out to be a woman's voice, sultry and appealing. Eric, you asked me to come over, but your residential area is closed, and I can't get in? A sweet voice that anyone would like to hear. I was stunned, staring at Eric straight in the eyes. He was sure for it, quickly finding a potential connection with someone, without my consent. Moreover, the neighborhood was sealed off. Fine. I felt like I was losing my mind. Eric hung up the call, confirmed the situation, and indeed, we couldn't go out for the time being. I pursed my lips, and then spat out the pill I had just taken. Thankfully, I hadn't swallowed it. With brows furrowed, he gazed at my stomach, still uncomfortable? I shook my head, curiously asking him, who was that earlier? Eric glanced at me, silent. A colleague of yours? I pressed on. Isn't that a big deal? Eric never allowed women to get close to him, let alone enter his house. Eric was apparently annoyed by my pestering. He looked at me apathetically. Since you're fine now, stop bothering me. Did I really bother him? I pursed my lips, feeling inexplicably gloomy. At that moment, my phone buzzed, and my parents urged me during my stay at home not to give Eric any trouble. This included not being picky with food, nor throwing tantrums. I responded with an "oh." Unable to help but feel a sense of self-deprecation. I wanted to throw a tantrum, but I needed someone to acknowledge me first. Didn't he have a girlfriend now? Could he still control me like before? Speaking of before, Eric was the one who could control me the most. I used to have anemia and didn't like eating meat, yet he directly ordered a beef and mutton combo meal, watching me chew and choke bit by bit. I wanted to cry at that time. And now, he might be going to control someone else anytime. Perhaps I'd be free. But oddly, why wasn't I feeling happy at all? At that moment, Wendy sent a message. I informed her that due to the pandemic, I was going to stay at Eric's house for a while. Wendy was very worried. Worried about what? If you had your first time, would there be a second time? Wendy, the man from that night, might not have been Eric. Wendy didn't believe it. How is that possible? The phone number belonged to him, but he told me that he had never been involved with anyone. I subconsciously believed Eric too. Wendy thought I was being foolish. You believe such words? She thought for a long time, finally finding a significant breakthrough. It went like this. Earlier, I had installed a recording software on my phone to prepare for a speaking test. I was diligent, using it repeatedly whenever I had free time, almost non-stop. Wendy suggested I open it up to see if there was a recording of that night. To confirm whether the man was really Eric. I searched and found it indeed. I took a deep breath, trembling as I opened the audio. Irene. Come out for dinner. Outside the door, Eric's deep voice came through. I quickly stopped. Scared that I almost got caught. I closed the recording software and went out of the room. In the dining room, where's the food? Eric was staring at the computer, his voice a bit indifferent. Where's the food? Aren't you supposed to cook for me? I bit my lip, speaking softly. At that moment, I genuinely felt uncomfortable. Even though it was a special situation, there were clearly vegetables and meat in the fridge. I looked at Eric expectantly. Uncle, you never let me eat instant noodles before. I felt disheartened, saying softly. In that moment, I gazed at Eric with a sorrowful look. Are you suddenly treating me so poorly because you're afraid of your girlfriend being jealous? The words barely out of my mouth, he froze on his side. My heart ached as I realized it. Okay, I knew it. I just knew. Sulking, I ran back to the room sulking, locked the door behind me. Now, under the moonlit trees, I was staying in Eric's study tonight. It was a place filled with the aroma of books. Every book had traces of Eric flipping through them. I couldn't help but randomly open one, flipping directly to the page marked by a bookmark. As I read it, I was stunned. It wasn't a bookmark, but a photo of me, not just that one. I flipped through all the books, and my photo was inserted in the middle of the pages. Some were familiar to me, while others were not. Some were posed, while others were taken sneakily. As I flipped through, I unexpectedly opened his handwritten diary. Eric is a geology professor. And his handwriting is related to his hobbies, much like mountains and rivers. However, his diary, just like his profession, was cryptic and hard to understand. The beginning was all professional theory summaries, like Morse code. Only the last line of text could be considered human language. But it was all related to me. He used a short sentence to record his feelings towards me. 10 years ago, there was a certain entry, also documenting my first appearance. That entry was quite special because the professional terms written above were barely visible. Reading his annotations about me over the past 10 years, my heart raced as I delved deeper. Turns out, Eric liked me too. He had liked me before, even earlier than I did. But now? His diary also recorded after his return to the country. I immediately flipped to it. It was a month ago, just returned, lots of things to do, really want to see the little girl right away. There was another note, friends played a prank, woke up with a girlfriend in bed for no reason, although nothing happened, but still felt sorry for the little girl. My heart dropped. Eric had never been involved with anyone. So, my child definitely wasn't his. I stared blankly for a long time, then opened the recording software. It's pointless, better delete it. Who cares, whoever it was that night? I'm not curious at all. My finger hovered in the air, about to press delete. But unexpectedly, the door was pushed open. Eric walked in with a stern face. Didn't I lock the door just now? Eric scolded me, asking what I was doing. Not even knocking before entering. If the lock wasn't broken, I would have kicked it down. I pouted, feeling rebellious. With a slight curl of his thin lips, Eric ignored me and glanced at the screen of my phone. Those audio clips, he understood them all. Practicing listening skills? With his hands in his pockets, he strode forward. I nodded timidly. Eric's lips quirked slightly, saying he had been studying hard. Now let's see the results. And with a sweep of his long arm, he took my phone away. In that moment, my mind went blank. Could he hear them? The next second, without thinking, I tried to snatch it back. With Eric being 1.88 meters tall and me only 1.65 meters, I made a desperate leap, hanging on his body. Give it back to me. Give it back now. I was going crazy. But that scoundrel Eric. Not only did he not return my phone, but he held it in his left hand behind his shoulder where I couldn't reach it. Did he have some dark secret? He looked at me with suspicion. My cheeks were crimson. Did I hit a nerve with Eric? As he spoke, there was a hint of jealousy in his tone. Oops, from reading his diary, it seems like Eric is feeling jealous. Why do you care? Weren't you ignoring me? I said, feeling hurt in my heart. If he liked me, why was he still flirting with other women? Why bring other women home? Wasn't he the one who never brought women home? How am I ignoring you? Whether I care or not, that's up to me. Eric stared at me, his face showing a hint of helplessness. I fell silent. Whether you care or not, that's up to you. I was busy earlier, didn't have time to cook. I thought I'd feed you first. Eric rubbed his brow and said in a soft tone. But I could tell he wasn't being entirely honest. Since I got pregnant, he had been disapproving every time he saw me. I hung on to Eric, not feeling thrilled at all, and my body felt a bit weightless, subconsciously squeezing my legs tighter. Irene, get down. Eric's deep voice suddenly sounded somewhat breathless. However, when I looked up and saw Eric's crimson eyes, I suddenly felt uneasy. There seemed to be something off about Eric's body. My face turned red, and I quickly got off Eric. What was he up to? A normal reaction for a man. Eric wasn't feeling embarrassed at all. I bit my lip, feeling even more embarrassed. It's strange. Discussing such topics when it's just him and me in this space. The more I thought about it, the hotter my head felt. Eventually, my brain hiccuped, and I blurted out straightforwardly, Eric, do you only react to me? As soon as the words left my mouth, my face rapidly turned red. What did I just ask? If you don't want to answer, pretend I didn't ask anything. I was mortified, Irene. Good, you finally stopped calling me little uncle? Eric walked towards me, his eyes showing a satisfied smile. You were never my little uncle. If my mom hadn't forced me, I wouldn't have addressed you like that. Just as I mentioned my mom, she called. My mom was calling me. Eric raised his hand, answered the call, and handed the phone to me. Irene, have you eaten? Didn't bother your little uncle, did you? I was speechless. Why did my mom always see me as a troublemaker? No, I am very obedient, little uncle. As soon as I said that, my lips suddenly felt itchy. Eric used his rough fingertips to lightly stroke my lips. I widened my eyes, staring at him. Are you out of your mind? What are you trying to do? My mom shouted again. Irene, what are you doing? Why aren't you talking? What's wrong with your little uncle? The sensation of Eric's fingertips brought an odd feeling. Even though I glared at him with the most fierce look. The feeling that was conveyed wasn't what it seemed like we were having an affair. But that wasn't the case. My mom doesn't believe me. She's convinced it's because you're being picky again. I was about to argue when Eric took my phone. Mary, Irene is fine. You don't need to worry. I bit my lip. How dare he not call me little girl anymore. Soon, Eric ended the call. Perhaps the phone was overheating, causing a slight lag. He touched the screen and my voice suddenly echoed. Yes. That's right. The audio recording from that night turned out to be me drunkenly reciting professional vocabulary. Eric held the phone, squinting at me. Should I praise you, or should I reprimand you? In less than 4 minutes, the recording abruptly stopped. Drinking, when did that happen? Eric looked at me, and I buried my face. He directly opened the recording details, frowned upon glimpsing it. I clutched my hand, feeling extremely lost. How did I end up mentioning a child while reciting professional terms? I was lost in thought, then heard Eric's thoughtful voice saying, Irene, are you sure you're pregnant? Didn't you see the 2 lines? I said. It was when he came to my house earlier. I missed my period for 2 months, so I took a pregnancy test in the bathroom. The shock of a positive result made me freeze, and I was coincidentally discovered by him. Thinking back to it, I heard Eric softly saying, "It's impossible. You must have made a mistake." I was dumbfounded. How could Eric be so sure? But on second thought, it wasn't entirely improbable, after all. A pregnancy test and a missed period weren't the most direct ways to confirm pregnancy. And I was too timid to visit the hospital. "Let's eat first," Eric said gently, watching me with a soft gaze. "We'll investigate this after the lockdown is lifted." I nodded and followed Eric out of the room. After a few steps, he held my hand. His warm palm enclosed mine. A strange feeling of contentment washed over me. Eric said he was ignoring me, but he still cooked 4 dishes and a soup for me. "Why aren't you eating? Had instant noodles and already full?" Eric asked me. I pursed my lips, and he had the nerve to say that. At that moment, Eric peeled a shrimp and fed it to me by hand, his magnetic voice whispering in my ear, "I promise it won't happen again." His fingertip, feeding it to me, brushed over my lips once again. My heart trembled constantly. However, as I opened my mouth, a wave of nausea rushed up from my stomach. I hurriedly got up and ran to the bathroom. Locking the door, I retched for a long time, feeling like bile would come up. I propped myself on the basin, seriously studying myself. Suddenly, I noticed my flat belly slightly protruding. My face turned pale, despair overtaking me. "It's over. I must be pregnant." When Eric came in, enveloping me in his arms, I couldn't help but cry out. My stomach had grown. Eric didn't say anything, patting my trembling shoulders, his strong arms supporting my body as he carefully guided me back to the room. "It's okay, stop crying like a little kitten," he said softly, using a soft tissue to gently wipe my face. I kept my eyes down, too embarrassed to look at him. A woman like me, pregnant with another man's child, what right did I have to like Eric? "Eric, you are the pride of the heavens. Little uncle. What did you call me?" When Eric tightened his eyebrows, hearing me switch back to that address, his face showed extreme discontent. My nose twitched, tears welling up as I gazed at him. Originally, there was no chance of us. Later, after getting pregnant and having the phone call transferred to him, I had hopeful thoughts. But now, that slight hope was snuffed out by my slightly protruding belly. "Irene, tell me, at which hotel were you that night, and who was the man?" He half knelt in front of me, cupping my face in his warm palm. I gazed into his deep eyes, bit my lip, and struggled for a while. "Tell me, don't bear it alone." Eric softly rubbed my cheek, his gaze softening. At that moment, even though my eyes still teared up, my anxious heart finally settled. I pursed my lips, took a deep breath, and revealed everything about that night, as far as I remembered, to Eric. Eric's gaze slightly faltered. He stared at me, his throat rolling, and asked, "Rose Hotel, room 619? 2 months ago, the 19th? I nodded. Yes, I was absolutely sure. I regretted attending the high school reunion party. I shouldn't have drunk so much in a moment of sadness. I shouldn't have walked into the wrong room. I covered my face with both hands, but tears still flowed uncontrollably. "Why are you so sad?" Eric asked. My expression froze, biting my lip. Eric moved my hands away, looking into my eyes, asking, "Is it because of me?" My eyelashes trembled lightly. "How did you know?" "That's right. I was upset. Eric had already returned to his country, but didn't come to see me. I seriously doubted if he had forgotten about me. I guessed." Eric's voice was low, gently brushing across my cheek. Did he already know that I had developed feelings for him? That's highly unlikely. I discreetly assessed Eric, and he gave a gentle smile, urging me to continue. Should I tell him what happened next? I buried my head, cheeks burning slightly. I just remember sleeping. And then, when I woke up, my clothes were disheveled. And there are things I can't say. "You can't get pregnant from just sleeping," Eric chuckled gently, rubbing my head. I suspect he was mocking my foolishness. But I had no proof that I know. In fact, it was more than that. From my fragmented memory, it seemed like I mistook a man for Eric. And then, I kissed and bit him. And even touched him. Anyway, I did everything I had wanted to do to Eric over the years, but never dared to. I was too embarrassed to go into details, so I just came to the point. What was meant to happen had already happened. Alas, I don't want to deceive Eric. If he despises me for this, then so be it. However, when I lifted my eyes discreetly, I saw that despite Eric's complex expression, he didn't look displeased. His handsome face gazed at me. Irene, men don't want this. No matter how hard you try. It's useless? Then how do you explain my belly? Inflated by air? Don't comfort me like that. I sobbed lightly, my eyes cast down. That night must have led to something. As for the man from that night, I never wanted to see him again in my life. Thinking about it, Eric's low voice sounded firmly in my ears. Irene, the man from that night, was actually me. My face froze, meeting Eric's handsome face. Instantly, my mind rejected the possibility. Clenching my lips, I spoke candidly. Okay, I admit, if it was really you, I would be happy, but you don't have to use that to comfort me. If I believed that, it would be shameless. Eric explained that he was drunk, and that as a drunk person, it was impossible for him to make me pregnant. At the mention of this, he asked me, the person who made you pregnant, did you feel it? No, right? I was dumbfounded. How did he know? Suddenly, my face flushed. What are you saying? How can Eric be discussing these things with me? Because I was drunk, I didn't do anything. So, of course, you didn't feel anything, Eric reassured me, patting my head, and chuckled. I bit my lips, my face blushing. Was Eric resorting to any means to cover up his fault? But Wendy told me that men, if deeply involved, might not have any feelings afterward. I glanced at Eric, saying seriously, men have to put in effort too. So you could have possibly felt something. In an instant, his face darkened. My heart sank, feeling uncomfortable. He must have thought my analysis made sense and regretted believing it. It's not what you think. Eric lifted my chin to make me look at him, speaking slowly. Irene, you will regret what you said just now. I was at a loss. Wasn't that a line from a Wendy novel? Was Eric using everything to help me, even this? Feeling touched, I couldn't hold back my tears. Eric's low voice sounded a bit frantic. Why are you crying again? I rubbed my nose, realizing I was moved by him. So I couldn't let Eric be the fall guy. Eric, don't you think my belly looks a bit prominent? It's not inflated, is it? You don't have to comfort me like this. I sniffled gently, lowering my eyes, certain that something had happened that night. As I pondered, I looked back at Eric. Was it true what you said about my thin uterine lining? The day Eric saw my pregnancy test, nothing happened except anger, and I assumed all my physical examinations arranged by him over the years were normal. Yes, Eric nodded. My eyes welled up again. What should I do then? Does that mean I can't have a baby in the future? Eric hugged me. No, I promise. I hesitated, but what if? I choked up, thinking, what if it was the end of my chances to have a baby? Looking at Eric, I voiced my fear. In that case, I won't be able to have a baby, Eric assured me. Irene, it's not like that. But I felt a pang of worry. Thinking of another worry, I asked, but what if? Looking at Eric, I questioned, did you say I took too many contraceptives? The day I saw Eric looking at my pregnancy test, besides anger, there was no next step. However, all the medical checkups arranged for me over the years were by doctors recommended by Eric. Do you have any idea what you took? How much? Eric was dumbfounded. Feeling wronged, I replied, I was scared. Scared to lose anything. Is common sense that important? Eric couldn't control his temper and scolded me harshly, but just as quickly, he regretted it. Then, he emphasized, the man from that night was him. After getting medication from the hospital, Eric took me to the Rose Hotel after pulling some strings to retrieve surveillance footage. That night he got drunk and booked a room for himself, which I took advantage of. I was speechless. The memories of that night flashed through my mind again. Are the bite marks still there? I asked Eric. Eric's handsome face faltered as he nodded. Why didn't you show me earlier? I was confused. Following a moment of silence, my face turned red. Why didn't you tell me? This is awkward. Next, he lowered his head and kissed me more passionately, with his warmth magically pulling at my emotions. The bedsheets were a mess. Eric was breathing heavily, his eyes filled with desire. Irene. I bit my lip, shook my head. We can't. Eric's dark lashes trembled slightly, and after staring at me for a long time, he finally got off me. His voice was hoarse, then I'll wait. My cheeks reddened, and Eric's request to come closer, nodding silently, my face lowering to button up my clothes. Eric turned away, skillfully tidying my clothes and messy hair. After a long while, he earnestly declared, I know your concerns. Tonight, we are going to see the parents. Surprised, I stammered, isn't it too rushed? Do we really need to do this now? The night is young, and a lot can happen. Refusing to let me withdraw my hand, Eric reassured, don't worry. We'll do this together, as we ventured back to my house. Knocking on the door, my mother greeted us with a cheerful face. Feeling timid, I instinctively moved my hand back, but Eric held on. My mother noticed, after 2 days of isolation, your nephew-uncle relationship has grown stronger. Walking hand in hand. Even holding hands tightly. Oddly enough, she began to feel uneasy. She promptly pushed us out, asking, what do you think you're doing? Stuttering, I was about to speak, but Eric preempted, Mary, I've disclosed everything to you. My mom lapsed into shock, protesting, am I not your sister anymore? Eric bit his lips, mother-in-law. I chuckled as my mom clutched her forehead. I was genuinely worried she would faint and reached out to support her. As a result, my mom took my hand and shot Eric a hateful look. I didn't take it seriously. That's your business. Eric didn't hold back with his words, and I instinctively glanced at him. After a while, Eric's demeanor softened slightly, and I should say a few more times. My mom was speechless. Family matters should not be made public, so we went inside and closed the door. Next, it was the trial of my parents. I thought, anyway, I like Eric. Eric likes me too. We are not blood related. Why can't we be together? Just because my mom accepted a younger brother, if my parents don't agree, I will. I hadn't figured it out yet when Eric slowly knelt down. My mom was shocked at first, but managed to maintain her composure. My dad didn't have much of a reaction, just a slightly displeased look in his eyes. I looked at Eric, who was now half his height, and my heart suddenly ached. He was so proud, yet he was willing to kneel down for me. Then, in a low voice, he slowly said, I like Irene, and that is an undeniable fact. I understand your concerns. Irene is still young, and I am much older than her, physically and mentally. You think we are not suitable, which is normal. After he finished speaking, he paused. My heart sank, and I looked at him incredulously. Why would he say that? Just as I was about to argue, Eric held my hand and looked up at my parents. Earnestly saying, no matter how long it takes, I am willing to wait for Irene. Tears filled my eyes. Eric, you're already 30 this year. My dad glanced at me and spoke, you're not young anymore. As he spoke, his voice and attitude softened a bit. I saw hope. Eric pursed his lips and said earnestly, it's okay. Irene said you are 7 years older than her mother-in-law, and I am only 5 years older than Irene. Just as he finished speaking, my dad sternly said, get out. My mom rubbed her temples and gave Eric a disapproving look. Then I heard my dad say again, get out, both of you. Both of us were driven out together, which could be seen as tacit approval, right? Eric held my hand, looking relaxed and happy. Come to think of it, why did my dad react so strongly? Could it be because he was like me back then? Yes, his father-in-law also found him too old. I spoke hastily, and Eric was not happy. I tiptoed to appease him. Okay. I will never find you old. But I was also worried. I was just a college student, while Eric was already a young university professor. Our levels and experiences were different. What if we couldn't find common ground in the future? Eric patted my head, saying, it's fine, who talks about work when they go home? Oh, that's true. But our hobbies don't match. I like playing video games, and Eric likes collecting stones. Who let him be a geologist? Eric whispered to me that he also loves playing games, and as for the stones, they were all for me. Ha! With all the variety of large stones in his house, I can't move them at all. Just as I was thinking, a green gemstone ring was slipped onto my ring finger. It wasn't expensive, but it was the sample I first found when I went up the mountain and excavated it. Our mentor joked and said it was the first gemstone of my geological career, which made me think it was a meaningful thing to give to our little girl. Eric slowly recounted, and I listened with tears in my eyes. So, I am proposing. Eric said solemnly and seriously. I widened my eyes, feeling overwhelmed with emotions. He just laughed lightly. Silly girl, no need to rush to answer, take your time to think, I will wait for you. Really? I polished the stone into a ring myself. Do you not believe in my patience? Eric asked with a smile. By yourself? My gaze fell on the scar on Eric's palm. So, this wasn't a burn? You can't hide anything from you. Eric reached out, touching my cheek and smiling helplessly. I grabbed his hand and gently put my lips on the scar on his hand. Eric, I will love you well in the future.